Look, a massive loss can make even the most disciplined, ice-cold trader completely emotional. It happens. The urge to just dive right back in and win it all back immediately, it's incredibly powerful. But as we all know, revenge trading usually turns one bad trade into a totally destroyed account. So in this explainer, we're breaking down a definitive 6-step blueprint to stop revenge trading right in its tracks before it creates catastrophic damage to your portfolio. All right, let's just jump right in.
We've all been there, right? You take a bad loss, it immediately triggers that emotional, impulsive trading. You double your position size because, hey, you just want to make it back. You take another loss, and what do? You double down again. Suddenly, what started as a completely manageable $500 loss becomes a $3,000 disaster in the span of like 90 minutes. You get absolutely trapped in what we call the revenge spiral, and honestly, it is the single most common path to completely blowing up an account.
I need to hit you with a hard truth right out of the gate here. The market does not owe you a recovery trade, period. Trading from a place of anger, frustration, or pure desperation, it never forces the market to suddenly bend to your will. Instead, it just leads to oversizing, chasing garbage setups, moving your stops around, and totally shattering your own risk rules. The goal right now literally isn't to make the money back. The goal is to physically interrupt that emotional spiral before your next trade even happens.
Okay, so let's break down the framework. Phase 1 is the emergency brake. This covers step 1, stopping immediately, and step 2, using loss limits.
For step 1, you absolutely must understand the difference between your brain on a plan versus your brain on recovery. After a massive loss, you are operating in a highly compromised emotional state. A brain fixated on recovering lost money simply cannot make quality decisions. You just can't. You have to close the platform, step away from the screen entirely. In this exact moment, your one and only priority is protecting yourself from making that loss any worse. So how do you actually force that pause? Well, that brings us to step 2, the daily loss limit. Think of this as the absolute hard cap on the damage any single day is allowed to do. How do you find your number? You take the midpoint between your average winning day and your best winning day. So for example, if your average win is $600 and your absolute best is $2,400, your daily loss limit is $1,500. Once you hit that number, trading stops. Zero exceptions. There's no just one more trade to see if it works. The screens go off. And why is this so crucial? Because having this rule pre-written completely removes the internal debate during those highly emotional moments. If your daily loss limit is way higher than what you typically make on a good day, recovering is going to require an unusually massive day just to break even. And that pressure, that just feeds right into the FOMO cycle. The daily loss limit breaks this cascade before it even starts. It ensures one bad session doesn't put any sort of meaningful dent in your account. Once the dust has settled and you're back for your next session, we enter phase 2, the recovery protocol. This means step 3, reducing size, and step 4, reviewing the loss. Let's look at the brutal math behind position sizing. If you risk 1% of your account per trade, 10 consecutive losses only cost you about 9.6% of your capital. You can survive that, no problem. But if you increase your risk to 3% because you're trying to bounce back, those same 10 losses cost you over 26%. And here is the real kicker. To recover from a 26% drawdown, you actually need a massive 35.7% gain just to get back to zero. The absolute worst thing you can do the next day is size up. Do not oversize. Shrink your position size to give yourself the mental space to actually regain your discipline. Step 4 is taking a really objective look in the mirror to review the loss. You have to ask yourself, what actually happened here? Was this just a completely valid setup that played out perfectly according to your playbook, but just happened to hit its stop loss? Or did you have a discipline problem? Did you chase a bad entry, ignore a major news event, or keep moving your stop because you couldn't stomach being wrong? You absolutely have to separate normal market variance from straight-up self-sabotage.
And the easiest way to spot a discipline problem is by checking your ARM multiple. If you plan to risk $100 on a trade, but then you completely refuse to sell when it hits your stop, and you end up losing $600, well, you didn't just take a loss. You took a -6 ARM multiple. That is a glaring, undeniable discipline problem. It proves you blatantly ignored your own risk parameters. Keeping your losses to a -1 R is literally the hallmark of a professional.
Okay, so once you've analyzed the damage, we move to phase 3, proactive prevention. This is step 5, creating a rule, and step 6, tracking the trigger.
For step 5, you need concrete, actionable rules written down way before the trading day even begins. Because trust me, you cannot rely on willpower in the heat of the moment. So for example, maybe your rule is a mandatory 30-minute screen timeout after a stop out. Or maybe you just stop trading for the whole day after 2 consecutive losses. Or actually, this is a great one. After a big hit, your rule is that you are only allowed to take your absolute highest quality A-plus setup next. Now, step 6 requires you to track the trigger. Revenge trading is never random. There is always a pattern. For some people, the urge to revenge trade hits right after they miss a massive setup, so they try to force a really late entry. For others, it's the classic give back violation, turning a beautiful $2,000 winning morning into an $800 losing afternoon just because they couldn't walk away. Once you figure out and track your exact trigger, you can prepare for it way before it strikes again. To really systematize your risk mitigation, you can't just rely on mental notes. Professional traders literally automate this stuff. Allocating appropriate capital to control risk exposure and using hard stop-loss orders to automatically close a position before it escalates, these are non-negotiable mechanisms. It's really all about turning your personal discipline into a cold, hard, automated system. Because let's be totally honest here, the gap between knowing you should journal these triggers and actually doing it, that's where most traders lose all their money. And this is where a tool like TradeZella becomes an absolute game changer. It acts like an automated trading partner. The auto tagger categorizes your mistakes for you. Zella AI gives you real conversational insights into your emotional patterns. And the session review agent automatically summarizes your day, comparing your morning plan to your actual results, completely eliminating that manual journaling fatigue. Honestly, one of the most powerful ways to fix your revenge trading is TradeZella's trade replay feature. Look, a static chart makes every single exit look super obvious in hindsight, right? But Trade Replay lets you rewatch your trade tick by tick, totally removing the haze of live emotion. You can pinpoint the exact moment you panicked, the exact second you broke your playbook rules, and finally understand what actually happened so you literally never repeat it. At the end of the day, you have to completely flip your mindset. Your main job every single day is not to make money. I'll say that again. Your job is not to make money. Your job is to manage risk and protect your capital. The absolute fastest way to stop revenge trading is returning to the market only when you are 100% mentally prepared to stick strictly to your daily loss limits and your position sizing rules. If you're serious about actually tracking your behavioral metrics and putting a stop to these account-killing mistakes, you absolutely need the right tools. You can use the exclusive link in the description down below to get 20% off TradeZella today. Stop guessing what's going wrong every session and let the data show you exactly how to fix your trading psychology. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Every single trader faces losses. It's just a mathematical certainty. But when that next completely inevitable drawdown hits, how are you going to respond? Will it be a controlled, simple lesson that you calmly review in your journal? Or are you going to let the revenge spiral turn it into an account killer? The choice and the discipline is entirely up to you. Implement this blueprint, protect your capital, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.